From beating Barcelona
and Chelsea have surely beaten Barcelona
to failing to beat Bournemouth.
Another goal in this game. Another one which comes with question marks over Chelsea's defending.
From beating the best team in the world in a final.
Club World Cup champions. What a month and a half it has been for Enzo Maresca.
To losing to a newly promoted side.
So that's why it's almost a bigger disappointment now if you're a Chelsea fan, because you think, well, if we could do that against 10 men against Arsenal, what the heck are we doing today?
From celebrating 2 titles with Maresca,
World Cup champion is something that we have to be proud. So today has been top achievement.
to him walking out the door, Chelsea's season has been a story on its own. The Blues are great at showing up for the big games, but they lack consistency. People thought Maresca would eventually figure it out, but now his time at Chelsea is done.
First time in Premier League history that a manager has left his job on New Year's Day.
Chelsea Football Club and head coach Enzo Maresca have parted company.
He was having one of those Chelsea moments where it feels like everything was happening at once. Bad results, pressure from the fans, pressure from the board, poor body language on the pitch, and questions about what the owners are thinking.
But we know that Enzo Maresca wasn't happy. He made it very, very clear he wasn't happy. How much of his unhappiness was down to owner interference?
People think that Chelsea's football leadership team go into the dressing room after every game, get a debrief from Enzo Maresca and interfere in how he's running the team.
After Chelsea's disappointing draw with Bournemouth at Stamford Bridge, parts of the home crowd openly booed. The fans were frustrated, the results weren't coming, and the relationship between Maresca and the club's owners looked like it was getting worse by the week. At that point, Chelsea had just won one of their last 7 Premier League games, and their poor run of form had impacted them in the Champions League as well. For a club with Chelsea's ambitions, that simply wasn't good enough, and the pressure was on Maresca.
The main reasons that Enzo Maresca is leaving Chelsea today is one, results. Results simply haven't been good enough over the past couple of weeks.
He didn't speak to the media after the Bournemouth game and even gave the players 2 days off ahead of a huge clash with Manchester City. That decision, combined with the poor form, only added to the noise around him, because behind the scenes, things didn't look great. There was a growing sense that Maresca and the owners weren't fully aligned. Now, at the time, there was no immediate plan to sack Maresca, but of course, Chelsea's ownership had shown that they would not be afraid to make sudden decisions. Tuchel and Potter both learned that the hard way. The situation with Maresca, though, felt slightly different. Neither side seemed ready to fully pull the trigger. But then, Maresca decided to walk out the door. I guess we should have seen it coming based on some of his previous comments, when he described a period at the club as the worst 48 hours of his time at Chelsea.
Since I joined the club, the last 48 hours has been the worst 48 hours since I joined the club, because many people didn't support us.
That really didn't sit well with everyone upstairs. Chelsea owners don't like public criticism, even subtle stuff like that.
Once you start questioning the board and start saying that it's the worst 48 hours and I haven't had the backing of the board, I haven't had the backing of the medical staff and all this sort of stuff, there's only going to be one winner, and that's the board.
And Maresca knew that. There had also been added tension because of the links connecting Maresca to Manchester City, in case Pep leaves in the summer.
You want to fire me?
I don't want to.
No, good. My salary is so high, so I have 1 more year.
Whether those links were realistic or not, they made an already uncomfortable situation even more awkward.
The biggest advantage, coming back to what I originally said, he's worked underneath Pep, he's worked at Manchester City, he knows exactly what's entailed and exactly what's expected of him. So I'm going to say onside. I think he's going to be the top candidate.
On the pitch, little moments started standing out too. Cole Palmer's reaction when he was substituted against Bournemouth. A cold, quick handshake didn't look great. It added to the sense that things weren't fully right inside the dressing room. Now, of course, Chelsea's long-term model isn't changing. The owners are committed to signing young players on long contracts and constantly trading the squad.
I like 15-year-old.
Any manager at Chelsea has to make that work. Even Maresca's replacement won't get special treatment in that regard. As for replacements, Chelsea already seem to have one lined up. Liam Rosenier is doing well at Strasbourg, another club owned by the same ownership group. He's seen as both the present and the future of the club. Now, even with a new manager, the reality is this: Chelsea were drifting. The fans are still unhappy.
The fact that Maresca keeps going with tossing over action pong is a disgrace. I'm sorry, he's been really poor for a considerable amount of weeks now.
The results were slipping and the patience was running thin. The only difference is that Maresca won't be the one to turn it around now. He was under serious pressure at Chelsea before deciding to walk away. What's funny is that not too long ago they were flying. On November 22nd, 2025, Chelsea were only 3 points behind Arsenal at the top of the table. Fast forward a few weeks and they're well behind the league leaders. The performances over the holiday period made things worse. Home games against Aston Villa and Bournemouth were flat, slow, and lacked intensity. Stamford Bridge could feel it too, and the fans made their feelings clear.
He's just a wannabe Pep, isn't he? He's just a fake Pep. I can't, and at least Arteta's a good fake Pep. But this guy's just, he's clueless. And to make it even worse, Arsenal being beaten Villa. So there you go.
Maresca was booed when he took Cole Palmer off against Bournemouth, and then he was booed again at full time before the 2-2 draw. These little moments matter, because at Chelsea, once the crowd turns, things can unravel quickly. Earlier in the season, Maresca and Chelsea looked untouchable. They beat Barca 3-0, were playing confident football, and looked like a team heading in the right direction. But since then, there were a lot of damaging defeats, including losses to Leeds, Atalanta, and Aston Villa. Those dragged Chelsea into a slump. And then off the pitch, things were not calm, because earlier in December, after beating Everton, Maresca made the comments that raised a lot of eyebrows. That was when he made the worst 48 hours of his time at Chelsea comment, suggesting that many people were not supporting him or the team. He never named the names, but it was clear something wasn't right behind the scenes. As I stated earlier, those comments didn't help. At Chelsea, the head coach is expected to work within a strict structure. You're not the manager with full control. You're a part of a system run by a sporting director and ownership above you. If the structure isn't united, problems usually show up on the pitch. According to Sky Sports, there was a real feeling that internal issues were affecting the results. Chelsea clearly have talent. The performances against Barca, Liverpool, and Arsenal prove that. But people behind the scenes felt that Maresca wasn't getting the best out of his squad. You could feel the disconnect at Stamford Bridge. Some fans were never convinced by Maresca even after he won 2 titles. Others felt that he was already helping the club punch above their weight, given that despite their vast amount of spending, Chelsea didn't actually have that many world-class players. There were some tactical concerns too. Chelsea made 55 lineup changes this season. Only Wolves had made more. Now, some of that was down to injuries and a young squad, but not all of it. Consistency had been missing, and Chelsea were also lacking control in games they should have been winning. They dropped 15 points from winning positions this season, which is a massive issue. Interestingly, winter had been a problem under Maresca before. Last season, Chelsea only won 2 league games between mid-December and late February. Weeks ago, Chelsea were considered to be in the title race. Now they were fighting just to get a Champions League spot. That swing shows you how quickly things have fallen apart. Now, many people assumed Maresca would be able to rebuild the club, that he would turn it around and have Chelsea competing again, especially since they still had the Champions League, Carabao Cup, and FA Cup to play for. Given how well Chelsea play in knockout tournaments, there was still a lot left in the season to fight for. But that window closed when Maresca decided to walk away. Now, it's not just the results that were the problem, it was also the way that Chelsea were playing in some of these games. They looked flat, looser than your local hooker defensively, and very fragile in key moments. Like that 2-2 draw versus Bournemouth at home wasn't just a disappointing result. It felt like one of those moments where the crowd decided, yeah, we've had enough of this.
There is no passion, there is no vision, there is no aggression, there is no fucking mindset in this football club. Nothing is there. What the?
Chelsea should have easily beaten the Cherries at home, especially because Bournemouth came into it in really bad form. Instead, the Blues managed to throw away control of the match again. They went ahead, but they couldn't close the door. They conceded from a long throw, which is the kind of basic defending errors that fans keep seeing repeated. And Bournemouth actually had a late chance that easily could have made the game even more embarrassing. Like I said, by full time there were boos, and the atmosphere was nasty. The Palmer situation also became a huge theme because for the second home game in a row at that time, Maresca took off Palmer, and both times the substitution didn't work. This also came after Maresca told the media that Palmer was now ready to play the full 90 minutes. Now, in Maresca's defense, Palmer had been managed carefully because he had recently come back from a long groin injury, so the club didn't want to overload him. But the thing is, fans don't really care about the context and explanations when the team isn't winning and the one player they trust to create something gets taken off.
Because he wanted to play certain players and the medical team are saying, well, you can only play it for 60, 70 minutes. He wants to play it for longer. So obviously when the Chelsea fans are singing, you don't know what you're doing when he's taking off players like Cole Palmer, that is because he's dictated to by the medical team.
Then against Aston Villa, Chelsea actually had a period where they looked really good, like a team with serious potential. For around an hour, they controlled the match, created better chances, and stopped Villa from countering. But then it all flipped. Chelsea didn't kill the game off, and when Villa made changes, the Blues couldn't cope. Villa brought on Ollie Watkins and Jadon Sancho, changed the shape of their threat, and Chelsea didn't manage the new situation. And that's been one of the biggest criticisms of Maresca's Chelsea, that they can look impressive for long spells, but they don't finish the job. Top teams win ugly, and Chelsea just didn't do that under Maresca. As a whole, they're just a confusing team, because in the span of 3 weeks, Chelsea fans saw the very best and worst of this team. Early in the season, Chelsea had beaten the defending champions with a late winner. Then a few weeks after that, they lost to newly promoted Sunderland.
Time and time again, right, this team, this group of players, they get up for the big games. They give 110% when it's primetime TV and it's Barcelona and Arsenal in town and, you know, everyone's watching. But when in the games that really matter, these games, away from home, it's cold, you know, midweek games, you know, difficult grounds, tight stadiums, hostile atmospheres. These guys don't fancy it. They don't turn up. They go missing.
Now, a reason for this is how teams set up against the Blues. When teams come to attack, like Liverpool did, it leaves space and Chelsea can punish them. But teams like Sunderland and Leeds don't do that. They sit deep, stay organized, and wait for mistakes. Against that type of opposition, Chelsea really struggle, and it's been a reoccurring problem. For the past 2 seasons, Chelsea have found it very hard to play against teams who defend deep and counter. They struggled against Crystal Palace, Brentford, Brighton, any team that's well drilled and disciplined. It seemed that Chelsea only turn up when they feel like the underdogs. When you think about the best performances under Enzo Maresca, it's always been when Chelsea were not seen as the favorites. Look at the Club World Cup final win over PSG, or their win against Barcelona in the Champions League. In both games, Chelsea had something to prove. They went in as underdog, and in both games, they didn't just play well, they fought, competed, and matched the intensity of the top teams. That should be the standard, but it hasn't been. How many times have we really seen Chelsea be their best for a full 90 minutes? If we're being generous, we can even include the 5-1 Champions League win over Ajax. But remember, Ajax went down to 10 men after just 17 minutes in that game. Then there was the narrow 1-0 Champions League win over Benfica that wasn't entirely convincing. And then even their 3-0 league win at Nottingham Forest wasn't the most impressive performance from the Blues. Forest missed several big chances, and Chelsea were poor for the first half hour of that game. Now, some fans might point to the 5-1 win at West Ham earlier in the season, but even in that game, Chelsea started it poorly, conceding in the 6th minute. When you strip it all back, there are only a few games where Chelsea had a great performance from start to finish, and that raises a serious question. Why can't Chelsea reach that level more often? Now, to be fair, no team plays perfect every single week. Ups and downs are normal. There are also games like the 3-1 Champions League defeat at Bayern Munich, where Chelsea had good spells, but were punished hard for their sloppy mistakes. Keep in mind, this is also the youngest squad in the Premier League, and young teams are naturally inconsistent. The injuries haven't helped either. Chelsea have missed key players like Cole Palmer and Levi Colwill for long periods of time. Maresca had even admitted after the Sunderland loss that 4 or 5 players of theirs couldn't train every day. That included Moises Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, and João Pedro. On top of that, of course, Chelsea were dealing with Champions League football, which meant a heavier schedule. In Maresca's first season, they could just rotate because they were in the Conference League, but this had been his first time managing a team in Europe's biggest competition. All of that matters. So where does this leave Chelsea? They clearly have talent. They've shown it against the top team. The quality is there, but right now they cannot be trusted to deliver it every week. And that's the biggest issue the new manager will have to solve. Because at this level, flashes aren't enough. Consistency is everything. Now, Chelsea never planned to sack Maresca mid-season. Their long-term idea was to give him 2 full years, then review the progress in the summer of 2026. That was always the plan. But the results dipped, the performances stalled, and Maresca's unhappiness became more visible by the week. The board felt the situation was slipping out of control, so they acted, and Chicken Parm Pep is no longer at Chelsea. For all the mess that has happened, Maresca didn't leave Chelsea empty-handed. He won them 2 trophies, the Conference League and the FIFA Club World Cup. They were Chelsea's first trophies of the post-Roman Abramovich era. He also guided the club back into the Champions League after a 2-year absence. In total, Maresca lasted over 18 months and 92 games, making him Chelsea's longest-serving manager since the takeover by Todd Boehly and Clear Lake Capital in 2022, which says a lot really about how that move has gone. Since then, Chelsea have burned through manager. They had Thomas Tuchel, who they inherited but was gone in 4 months. Graham Potter only lasted 7 months. Frank Lampard was an interim. And Mauricio Pochettino only lasted 1 season. And Maresca, a year and a half. 5 head coaches in under 4 years. I guess that's just the Chelsea way, no matter who's in charge. Mid-season sackings are not a new thing at Chelsea, but this one was very risky. The new coach walks into a packed schedule with almost no time on the training ground. The confidence of the squad is low, the fans are very angry, and the margin for error is tiny. Unlike when Thomas Tuchel replaced Frank Lampard in 2021, this squad does not have the same level of experience to absorb chaos. There's no Thiago Silva, no Pete Conte, no Dave Azpilicueta leading the dressing room. And while Chelsea's hierarchy insists that the structure and playing style won't change, any new coach will still bring in new ideas, even if they're only small ones. And that transition is never smooth. Now, some Chelsea fans never fully warmed to Maresca. There were moments here and there, some nice songs, some brief spells of belief, but I don't think doubt ever really went away around the Italian. But now with him gone, a lot of the frustration may turn towards the ownership instead. In fact, for some Chelsea fans, that's already started, because I think many people realized Maresca was actually doing a pretty good job. But the club believes that this squad is good enough. They believe their structure will protect them. And this change, while painful, they feel gives them a better chance to achieve what they want to achieve. And maybe they're right. But once again, Chelsea are pressing the reset button. Another manager gone, and another rebuild looming. Enzo Maresca's time at Stamford Bridge was not a failure. It just ended before it ever really felt stable. And to be honest, at Chelsea, that might be the most predictable ending of all. The owners have a set way of doing things. They're gonna keep signing young players on long deals. They're gonna constantly buy and sell players and run a high volume squad model. And their expectation is very simple. The coach has to make it work. So if results dip, they're not gonna adjust the model to help the manager. They're just gonna find someone who can work within the confines. The Maresca to City noise definitely didn't help either. It added tension at a time when the form was poor. And whether it's a realistic move or not, it created a weird energy. Chelsea fans wondered if Maresca was fully committed. The Chelsea owners don't love anything that looks like a distraction, and the media pressure went up instantly. It became another brick in the wall of doubt. Now, to see the legacy that Maresca has left behind at Chelsea, you have to watch this video right here.